Welcome back to Beyond the Helmet. And of course, that is hashtag BTHpod if you're following on social media. I'm your host, Steve McGrath. And today we're going to learn from someone who has walked a path that very few people can actually truly relate to. Very few people are so gifted at two sports that they can play professionally, let alone everything that happened after, he became a man. But it's none other than Quincy Carter, QC17. And of course, that's also the name of the school of which he's training quarterbacks. We're going to get into that as well. Quincy, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good, buddy. Good. Blessed, man. How you doing?
I am blessed as well. And I appreciate you taking the time. And while the two of us seemingly are blessed over here, that today's kind of a weird day with everything going on in the world. We're recording this with a lot going on between Russia and Ukraine. So I really wanted to get this kicked off on a happier note because we're not political science guys over here. I just wanted to kick this off a little bit of talking about the Georgia Bulldogs because obviously when you played, you were one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. But as of late, they kind of went on a little bit of a run here. Kirby Smart's done some amazing things for the Dogs. What did it mean for you watching your alma mater go and win a national title?
Man, it meant the world because I know what it meant to, everybody who's from the state of Georgia, everybody who's ever been connected with the University of Georgia. For us to finally get over the hump, and not listen to any more of the 40-year jokes that were out there, man. It meant the world to us, man. So these bragging rights are going to go down with me into that first kickoff game of this college football season.
Now, you played quarterback at Georgia, but you kind of came in being a man. For those that aren't very familiar with your story at a high school, you kind of went baseball first. Do you mind just talking about being 17, 18, having to make a grown man decision about your future? And ultimately, how do you make your way to Georgia?
Well, it was a tough decision, man. Baseball actually was my first sport I ever played. And it's my first love. When I got in high school, because I went to high school as an 8th grader, I started competing for the quarterback job there. And it was a pretty good battle, man, up until, my 10th grade year when I kind of took the helm as becoming a starter. And football just gradually continued to grow on me. Baseball was every summer, 100 plus games every summer playing on my East Coast travel baseball team. And it was my first love. But that tough decision had to be made. I was getting some good advice from guys like Deion Sanders, my late agent, Eugene Parker, on how sound of a decision I need to make. So I decided to go baseball first. And give it my all. I knew football could always be in my back pocket, but I wanted to give baseball a shot first. That's what my first love was, so that's what I was entrenched in, trying to go accomplish. But my love for football never went away. And so after a couple of years, man, I made the decision to, reopen my recruiting. Joe Hamilton was entrenched at Georgia Tech, having some pretty good years up under his belt. I'm a Georgia boy. I wanted to stay home. And one of the only reasons why I really possibly I didn't go to Georgia, right out of high school was because they were on probation. And I was kind of, skeptical about that. So it became evident that Georgia was really the school that really fit the billing, with Jim Donnan being there with his pro style offense, Mike Bobo leaving, right after that big Outback Bowl down there in Florida. So it was just, man, it was perfect timing, and it was great to, to go to college, get me a fresh start on sports period in life, really, to be honest with you, going to class and everything, man. So some tough decisions had to be made, but I was able to persevere through them, and with God, and then having some good people around me to make a sound decision.
No, I had to fight myself because I wanted to interrupt you there. So Deion is in your ear as a teenager. Can you speak a little bit about it? Because again, one of few guys ever that understands being a two-sport athlete. Do you recall what he had to say?
Well, he told me, well, he's basically telling me about his experience with it. And then my agent was in my ear too, also at the same time. But Dion was just telling me how much work had to be put in, trying to play both at the same time. And then my agent was, telling me at the time how important the quarterback was to his football team and splitting time and leaving and coming in and coming out and missing practices and the continuity of the team was something of importance to him, and that's something that needed to be noted and thought about. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, it was great. It was great having Deion as a consultant. Matter of fact, Deion was being represented by Eugene Parker, so that's how I was able to get some good sound advice from him.
Now, because of this baseball experience, you're not just a couple years older than a lot of your teammates at Georgia. You have real experience. You weren't just doing nothing for a couple years. Did you have like any trouble relating to any of the guys there that maybe just kind of seemed like kids compared to what you had already gone through at that point? It just like it's a unique perspective to be going into college having already done the pro baseball route.
Not really. I've always prided myself on being a good leader. And so if you're going to be a good leader, you never put yourself in a position, thinking that you're above somebody else or someone's too immature to be around you. So you got to rally the troops as a quarterback, man. So that, mindset never entered my mind. It was about just going and getting acquainted with my guys. Heck, I needed them more than anything because they had experienced the college life. They knew, how much to put in the studies, hourly during the week, how much to get in that training room and things of that nature. So, in some aspects, I was following them, at the same time, just trying to get the routine of things.
Now, I do want to just jump forward a little bit to you getting into the NFL. You obviously you come in with a lot of expectations. The Cowboys draft you in a year where they don't have a first round pick. Obviously, it's a high pick for a quarterback. Do you recall trying to, I don't want to say deal with like it's a bad thing, but just kind of like readjust to like you're getting paid all this money, you're a professional athlete, the spotlight's kind of on you now. You got to learn a whole new playbook. You're playing with there's all these different things that the college kid has to do to adapt to the NFL on a business level, mental level, physicality level. Do you recall anything that particularly stood out as being difficult or hard for you trying to get ready?
I say the hardest thing was how it was starting to be perceived by my peers. It's one thing to play for the Georgia Bulldogs and you're in the whole state of Georgia, and everybody just see you as QC. But now when that star got put on my head, on my helmet, that brought a whole nother set of, mindset from different people. So just adjusting to that. I've always been a gym rat. I always worked my butt off. So I just wanted to get to Dallas and prove that I can play, not only, be the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, but prove that I belong in the NFL. So I would say the biggest adjustment was just the people around me and how they started to perceive who I was becoming.
Now, one thing that when I look at your time with the Cowboys, that stands out to me, and I don't necessarily think this reflects on any coach or Jerry in any way, but bring in a young guy like you to have no veteran quarterback to kind of help you really show you the ropes. Did you ever think about? I hate the what if game, like well, what if this had happened? But like, do you ever think about, man, I wish there had been like a veteran, someone that I could have really leaned on to understand what it takes, or does your mental makeup that never really kind of ended the picture for you?
Well, we tried. with Tony Banks. Something went wrong in training camp, and he was end up being released. But to be honest with you, I had Wade Wilson in my quarterback room. So he was a great mentor. Matter of fact, I struggled throwing the NFL ball for a little while, and Wade really, fixed my grip on the football so I could be able to throw a perfect spiral. So Wade was, a big benefactor for me, early on my first couple of years, man, and the knowledge that he brought to the game. Because he was one of those journeyman backup guys who really had to, always be ready. And so Wade showed me a lot. Rest in peace to my guy. But he showed me a lot in my time while I was in Dallas.
Now, over the course of the first 3 years in Dallas, I mean, everyone knows, 2003, you really start to go off. But when you look at just your progression as purely a player, is it little things like grip that you can really attribute to your game taking leaps and bounds forward? Or is it just the reps of seeing defenses week in and week out? Like how do when you just think about your growth as an athlete, what helped you the most just in getting to that place of, being able to put together a 10-win season?
I would say my maturity level first, and how I approached the game was a little bit more based into the intricacies of the quarterback position, knowing every player on the field, what his assignment was. Then the game started to slow down for me too. Then, I was able to, get some humbling experience of getting benched. So that lit a fire in me too. So it was a couple factors that really started to, mesh together that third season for me to have, I call it, to be honest with you, okay season. We had a great defense around me. I know we won 10 games. I played solid. But of course, man, I'm hard on myself. So, I know there's a lot of things that I could have done better too. But that's just the competitor in me.
Well, I think that's what drives anyone toward greatness, is that competitor. For you to say it's okay, it's like, well, that is where you set the bar compared to what you had done before. It's a massive leap forward. So yeah, in a way, I expect nothing less for you to say, yeah, I left a couple of plays out there, could have done more. And I, you kind of have to, again, I hate the what if game, but like, how much did you kick yourself over the, all the time since then about maybe what could have happened with the path that you were on? I mean, anyone that was a fan was, really looking forward to what the future could have had, particularly in Dallas.
Yeah, well, ultimately, man, I kicked myself for years because, when you look at the grand scheme of things, I stopped a really promising career from choices that I was making off the field that ultimately caught up with me. So yeah, definitely, man, it hurt, to really let go of a dream that I had worked my butt off my whole life for. And I ended up struggling off the field with that, with drugs and alcohol, which contributed more, once my career was over. So definitely, but it's a big learning lesson for these younger kids, man, because I started a marijuana habit at 15 and 16 years old that I couldn't kick once I was 26, and we're talking a 10-year period where, whether I was medicating off marijuana, doing it recreationally, it didn't matter. It's just a matter of fact that I've started something that I couldn't, stop, and that's, these kids, what they're dealing with, these young men, what they're dealing with today, and thinking marijuana, is really legal. And, you can argue all you want about it being legal, but in our profession, it's not legal. And not only that, man, it holds you back from really, being who you are, who you are, and who God has called you to be. So definitely, man, I stopped a dream come true with a, dream franchise with the Dallas Cowboys.
And I really can't, you know, properly convey my appreciation for you being able to open up like this on it, because it has to be, really, it takes a special type of person to be able to speak on what you've been able to go through and be open about it. So I feel like we kind of maybe had beat around the bush a little bit talking about your early years trying to be a professional. Now with the benefit of hindsight, when you look back at, maybe it goes back into college, but at least being a professional, how tough. I mean, you had already mentioned that the perception of you were no longer QC with this because you had the star on your helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Were you leaning on, drugs, alcohol to kind of deal with that? Or was it just still something that a dependency of sorts, but, did the mental aspect and everything changing kind of increase your desire to lean on that for help?
I've been able to do the hard work. And when I say hard work, the hard rehab work, the 12-step rehab work. And going back and looking, doing some work and looking back hindsight, yes, it was recreational, and then it became, me wanting to just, smoke some marijuana just to ease the, ease of what I was feeling. And then it became where, it was useful, to me to really just block out some of the things that were going on around me. And kind of really, to be honest with you, escape the world that I was actually living in. So yeah, and then it became a problem where I couldn't stop, and did the fatal thing of failing that test right before the 2004 season, and the Cowboys had to let me go. So it was a combination of things, but if I don't start recreationally, then I'm not even looking at, maybe using it to just, take some ease away of what I'm going through, and I would have leaned more on God, which I had a great, faith foundation, then I didn't lean on when I should have.
Did you have any sense at the time that things were getting out of hand when you think about 03, 04? Or was it still, this was kind of you doing you and you were getting by?
Honestly, it was a every now and then thing. I was already in the drug program. And it's funny when I think about it because, I've, been through it all. I end up graduating, to harder drugs, ecstasy, Percocets, cocaine. This thing is a gradual process, man, for anybody out there listening. Don't think it'll stop with marijuana. But when I think about that little time period, 2 years, it was just to take the edge off, for a weekend, because I was getting tested regularly, and I took the edge off too much and tested the waters too much and ended up failing that. But it wasn't a everyday thing. I needed to, have some marijuana in my life, and that's how the brakes fell. But at the end of the day, I was doing something that I shouldn't have been doing, and I got called for it. And then after that, it was just a free fall.
Is there anything that someone could have done or said to you when you're this, 23, 24, 25 years old to get you to stop?
Absolutely. I was actually going through therapy, but I could have took it more seriously of where I was. I could have, been able to identify it and see those times where I'm supposed to be not smoking marijuana, but then somehow, some way, next thing you know, I am, and really being real with myself like I am today, and, we'll be looking at a whole, probably another scenario of my life if I would have took my counseling a lot more serious and really listened to really and seen to which direction my life is going. Absolutely.
You had mentioned, perhaps if you had had a better relationship with God. I think that's what you had said, if I had heard you correctly. So do you mind, and also I want to bring in Hollywood Henderson at this point. After kind of hitting or going through such a tough patch, you've been able to, by all accounts, maybe refine yourself is a way to phrase it, but get back on your feet and start to live life again, start, chasing success in a way. Can you, when you think about, forget being a pro athlete, but just trying to be a human being in battle with this and try to figure out the next stage of your life, like what worked for you? Who were the instrumental, or what were the instrumental forces?
Well, having Hollywood in my life was such a blessing. And, we met like in 2007. And so he actually sent me to one of my first, actually my second rehab. I say first sometimes, but it's my first with him. My first was actually in Boston with the NFL. But having him in my life was such an inspiration. But if in this recovery thing, if you're not ready to do the hard work, and I mean really take a look at yourself. And step one talks about your life being unmanageable and you being powerless around the drug or alcohol. If you're not ready to look at those things, if you're not ready to go through, a good step 3 where it talks about turning your wheel over to God. Step 4, we get into, writing resentments and really looking at why some of the things have happened to you, sharing it with someone in step 5. If you're not ready to do that and you're not ready to have a higher power, for me, it's God, really come into your life and bring you into sanity, you're not ready to do them things, it's not going to work for you. 2 things about recovery. 1, you got to surrender to God and a higher power. And 2, you must and will have to work these steps. And then it's a continuous program and it's a maintenance program. And if you're not ready to do those things, you're not going to be successful in trying to stay sober. So over, probably a 12-year period, I get some time, 6 months here, get out of rehab, get a little time, boom. I'm not, on my program. And then, hey, I'm falling victim again, to the drugs and alcohol, get about a year. Then I'm falling victim again because I'm really not living the lifestyle of being in recovery. And so no matter, Hollywood being in my life, man, and I tell you what, man, he never gave up on me. And until I, really totally wholeheartedly surrendered to this program and surrendered to God, I had no shot.
Wow. It's kind of a hard segue at this point. I want to talk about the quarterback training school that you run. But, just to put a pin in the NFL days, it does, when I look at stuff, complete outsider, but when I try to search, it seemed like Bill Parcells tried to be supportive and helpful. When you think back, how do you feel today about, if not Coach Parcells specifically, Jerry Jones, the Cowboys organization, do you feel like that they had done right by you throughout that process?
That's not up to me to decide. We're talking about America's team. And we're talking about a very storied franchise. I made decisions in my life that wasn't the right ones, and they made a decision for their franchise. Bottom line, cut blank period. Jerry was a real good buddy. I almost call it buddy. I'm not even that old to be disrespecting him, but he was a great mentor to me as far as, handling your business, how to run a business. Because basically that's what I was, the CEO of the Cowboys, being the quarterback. Excuse me. But he was very instrumental to me. Bill Parcells, man, really, instilled in me what this game was really about, how you have to approach it, how you have to prepare. So I had 2 great men in my life. I made bad decisions and bad things happen. Bottom line.
Fair enough. Well, as I alluded to, if anyone were to go to it, I'll have this readily available for anyone that watches the podcast. QuincyCarter17.com is where, if they're not going directly, anyone isn't going directly to your social media channels, that is where they can see more about what you're doing training quarterbacks. So, man, I see you post stuff all the time. You've been doing it for a long time. You seem seemingly working with kids. You've been posting about your boy at San Antonio, Frank Harris. They're really doing good things. But I see you working with kids much younger than that. When you're looking at the kids today playing quarterback, where do you see they are the most under, taught? Like, what's the biggest emphasis that you're trying to place on these young men, trying to get them ready to be a good quarterback?
Oh man, I'm smiling because I preach it to my young men all the time, and it's dropping back from center. They're being taught at the age of even 5 and 6. I don't know how a coach can really have confidence in a 5 and 6-year-old center to snap it to a quarterback and do it probably about 30, 40 times a game without any fumbles. But anyway, they're learning at 6 and 7 years old that this is the way that you take a snap from center and not up under. Dropping back from center is a way different game than taking a snap from the shotgun. So I would think that's the biggest difference. But hey, with all the 7-on-7 circuits that they got going on, they're much better passers too, because they're throwing the ball a lot more at a younger age.
Now, how would a Quincy Carter have fared in today's NFL? Everything's a 3 and 4 wide receiver set. You got these monsters at tight end like Kelsey and Gronkowski. If you're throwing the ball 40 times a game, what kind of numbers would Quincy Carter put up in today's NFL?
I would have loved it, because the biggest difference, I'll be honest with you, people take this for granted, but those receivers not being able to get touched by those cornerbacks on a consistent basis.
Ty Law changed the game.
Oh my goodness. That's a big advantage. But I would have loved to play in this game today.
Now, obviously, when you're working with kids, technique is a huge part of it. How much do you coach them up on the mental side? And I don't mean like X's and O's so much, but like the maturity side, stuff that you've already talked about. Like, what sort of things can you teach a young kid about what to or how to handle these situations as they grow up and they're going to be, the CEO of sorts of the football teams that they play on?
Well, it's most important that I drive home to my quarterbacks, man, that, their leadership is more important than even them throwing the football. How you lead the troops, how you rally the troops. So I harp big on that, and then secondly, I really want to let them understand how much, knowing a pre-snap read, watching defenders as they move, are the linebackers on their toes or on their heels, and that's predicating on whether or not it's going to be a man or zone. Where are the safeties? Are they inside the hash or the outside the hash? So the whole mental aspect of the game is so important. But I drive home the leadership, along with that. And then, if you can get those two components under your belt, of course, you got to have the skills to throw the football. It helps out a whole lot if you could, tuck it and run with it. But if you don't have that leadership, and if you don't have that mental attribute to study the game and knowing what guys are, trying to do to you on the other side, you don't have a shot at that. And I'm very clear and cut with that too.
No, I do understand that you have a camp coming up. So do you mind just talking a little bit about the camp, where it is, how do people learn more about it?
Yeah, me and my buddy, actually Coach Kruger, from the New England, Boston area. Actually, Todd Kruger used to play in the NFL too. And Earl Chambers from LaGrange, Georgia, from LaGrange College. I'm sorry, he's actually the head coach down there. And we're going to put together a quarterback and receiver camp. It's going to be a satellite camp. We're going to live stream it. Going to have Division II, Division IIIs, NAIAs, JUCO coaches at the camp, some college coaches will also be working the camp too. And so we want to give these kids an opportunity, you know, to give a great shot at getting a scholarship. And then at the same time, you know, the Division Ones and Division One AA's will be watching also. 247 and Rivals will have a representative there. So basically, man, what we're doing for these kids is giving them another opportunity to be recruited and then also be put through the test of some key drills that really show off their skills.
Very cool. So where's the best place to go to learn more about the camp?
Yes, you can go to QuincyCarter17.com, and we'll have the camp posted there. And then you can also look on Eventbrite, and you'll see LaGrange College Earl Chambers Camp. So either QuincyCarter17.com will have it posted there, or look on Eventbrite for the LaGrange College Earl Chambers Camp.
All right, there we have it. So, man, as we get very close to wrapping up now, you're also involved working with a rehab facility, if I understand. So do you mind just talking about this stage in your life where you are as a man? Obviously, very important to you to be working with the community that seemingly helped you so much. Do you mind just speaking a little bit about where you're spending some of your other time when it's not working with kids and playing quarterback?
Yeah, man, BRC Recovery is my family, man. This is where I got sober at. Actually, I'm at work right now in my office. I'm the alumni coordinator. I do exit interviews, also, you know, meeting with our former clients, alumni, set up alumni meetings, AA meetings. We're doing various alumni trips and gatherings and things of that nature, man. So it's just really, be honest with you, man, it's an innate ability that I have to, you know, I've just taken my leadership from the football field onto here into recovery, man. And it's just a great opportunity for me to give back. You know, I'm so thankful for this place, man. When I look around sometimes from the depths of where I came from almost 3 years ago, man, it just means the world to me. And to be working for a company like this with Marshall Stone, the CEO, man, it's just such a blessing, man. So yeah, man, I just love it, man. I love what I do, and sometimes it don't even feel like a job. Well, sometimes.
So I know recovery is a lifelong process, but how many years in are you now? About 3?
2.5 now.
2.5.
Yep.
Well, congratulations, man. I'm so happy to see that you're doing well, and obviously as you continue to work with kids, work with the rehab, it seems like only bigger and brighter things are coming.
Hey, God is good, man. And God, hey, I let him drive for now. We learned that in step 3, man. Giving your will over to God. I let him drive now. I'm not even sitting in the front seat. I tell people I'm sitting in the back seat. I don't even want to be in the front seat. I'm sitting in the back seat with God.
Oh, so he's the chauffeur.
Hey, what? Let me tell you, best one you ever have. Try him out.
Well, Quincy, as we wrap this up now, I always like to end on what's the best piece of advice. So if you were talking to anyone, doesn't have to be sports related, but if you wanted to speak to a young 16, 17-year-old kid about living their best life, you know, what piece of advice can we end this on how to have that high level of success?
I'll probably tell them, you know, if you're going to try to accomplish anything, you got to work for it. Nothing is going to be given to you. And then other, you know, piece, I've got to throw in some recovery in there, man. Don't start a habit that you possibly can't stop.
Sound words to end on. QuincyCarter17.com again for more information about the football camp that's coming up, all things quarterback training related. At Quincy L. Carter on Twitter and Quincy Levon Carter at Instagram. Did I miss anything?
I don't think you did, man. I really appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot.